Hello, welcome to Min to Max Math, where we make math make sense. In this video, I walk you through how to solve derivative problems using the product rule. This rule helps you take the derivative when two functions are being multiplied together. Here, if we look at our formula here with our y function, we have two functions being multiplied together, f times g. If we take the derivative of this y function, we have f times g prime plus f prime times g. Do realize here that for our derivative, we are adding. Now let's take a look at our first example. In this first example, we have two functions being multiplied together. X being our first function, x squared plus 3 being our second function. Now let's identify our f and g's and their respective derivatives. F being my first function, I will call that x. G being my second function, x squared plus 3. Next, take the derivative of each using the power rule. The derivative of x is 1. Derivative of x squared plus 3 is 2x. Now that we've identified our four components, let's plug them into our derivative formula. So remember earlier, our derivative formula for the product rule is f times g prime plus f prime times g. Simply plug in these four components into this formula. So now we have x times g prime plus f prime times g. Now let's simplify this expression. So we now have 2x squared plus x squared plus 3. Let's simplify this some more by combining like terms. Do realize here that these two terms have like terms. So we have 2x squared plus x squared. Add them, and we have 3x squared plus 3. Finally, our answer is in its simplest form. So this right here is the derivative of our original function. Let's take a look at the next example. Again, we can use the product rule here because we have two functions being multiplied together. We have x squared and e to the x. They're being multiplied by each other, so we can use the product rule. So just like before, let's identify our f and g's and their respective derivatives. F being the first function, which is x squared, g being the second function, which is e to the x. Next, take the derivative of each. So the derivative of x squared is 2x. And now to find the derivative of e to the x, this is something you just have to memorize. So the derivative of e to the x is just e to the x. Next, plug in these four components into our product rule formula. So we have f times g prime plus f prime times g. Now I will simplify this expression by removing the parentheses. Notice here that for our two terms, they have e to the x in common. So e to the x is our greatest common factor that I am going to factor out. So I'm going to factor out e to the x. And what's remaining inside this parentheses is x squared plus 2x. So this expression right here is our simplified derivative of our original y function. Now let's take a look at one more example. This example is a little bit more complex because it's going to involve both the product rule and the chain rule. So again, we can use the product rule here because we have one function multiplied by another function. Just like before, let's identify our f and g's and their respective derivatives. F being x squared plus 1, and g being the natural log of x squared. The derivative of x squared plus 1 is straightforward because we're simply using the power rule, so that is going to be 2x. Now, the derivative of the natural log function, you're going to have to memorize this. That is going to be 1 over the inside function, whatever is inside the parentheses. And because our inside function is something more complex than just x, we're going to have to use the chain rule. And I promise I will create another video on how to use the chain rule and when to use the chain rule. So we'll have to use the chain rule here. So I'm going to have to multiply this expression by the derivative of x squared, which is 2x. Simplify this, and we have 2x over x squared, which simplifies to be 2 over x. Now, just like before, we are ready to plug in these four components into our product rule formula. So we have f times g prime, so that is x squared plus 1 times 2 over x, plus f prime times g, and there we have it. This is our derivative of our original function.